first thing I'll ask then is just tell me a little bit about what's going on here today.
Well, this is one of many stops we are making over a 2-week period around the entire state to share with educators the many exciting things that are happening in Indiana education, the changes we confront as the national landscape calls for education reform, and how we have an opportunity in Indiana to really drive that mission and to be the front runner nationally in how to reform education on behalf of Indiana children.
Why Wayndale Elementary? Why did you choose this location?
First of all, this is a school that has tremendous growth. And as we roll out Indiana's growth model, which is a new way of looking at student performance, Wayndale jumped out. And in speaking to Principal Martz, it's understandable why Wayndale jumps out, because they truly take and look at each individual child and how they can move each and every child from where they are to their highest potential. And that's the focus of the growth model.
A couple things that have been brought up in education recently, the merit-based scale, I suppose. Tell me a little bit about that and how, I guess, you can deal with teachers that may have a large portion of non-English speaking students or maybe disability students with learning disabilities. Kind of how do you put things in place to make sure that it's still fair?
Well, first, go back to the growth model. The growth model is the game changer, because the growth model, first of all, enables us to level the playing field for children regardless of their ability level, regardless of what type of disadvantage they walk into a classroom with. But the other piece of this is the reason we're here is really to talk about those issues. In a new educational landscape where we believe we should recognize and reward our best teachers, we're here to get ideas on how to do that. You know, there is no magic formula from the state. The state is here to say we want to help local school corporations set new parameters so we can recognize and reward our brightest and best teachers. So it's not a magic formula, and frankly, the whole issue of performance-based pay isn't a silver bullet. It is part of a comprehensive plan to reform education in this state.
Sure. So might you then consider options such as a multi-tiered different, I guess, structure or different things like that? I guess what are some of the different ways that you're looking at?
Well, a good example. Indiana was very fortunate to receive $32 million from the federal government in the Teacher Incentive Fund. And as the backbone of our grant application was a program called the Teacher Advancement Program. The Teacher Advancement Program is a multifaceted program that looks at educator evaluation much differently. It provides career ladders. It provides performance-based pay. It not only provides performance-based pay based on what the individual teacher does, but also what the school does, so that all teachers at a place just like Wayndale may be able to benefit from that metric. So the short answer is nothing's off the table.
Another question that we've heard is that it kind of seems like maybe the state is coming up against the teachers union. Kind of what's your response to that?
Our response is come and join us. You know, we are in an era where education reform, the improvement of education across the country, is a very fast-moving train. Our job as state leaders is to make sure Indiana is on the front of that train. And we often say to our teachers associations, our administrator groups, join us, because we have a choice at this point in our state's history. We can either be on the front of that train driving it and put Indiana on the front of the national landscape. We can be on the back of that train, and the worst place we can be is on the bottom looking up at the bottom of that train. And we don't want to be there, and we ask our teacher unions, we ask our administrator groups to join us and help us be on the front of that train driving education reform in this state.
Financial issues are definitely something that everyone's dealing with and having to work around right now. Fort Wayne Community Schools have about 200 students less than IPS, but yet we receive about $200 million less in funding. Isn't that a problem, and how do we change that?
Well, that will be an issue the legislature will take up. I testified at the Interim Study Committee on School Funding. I think there are a number of concerns regarding that very issue. We have to take a look, and there's no better time than right now to take a look at how we fund our schools, what we fund in terms of student performance, how money follows children, Those types of initiatives, and I think there's no time like the present to have that discussion in the General Assembly and take a look at how we fund Indiana schools.
With the new ISTEP scores, I know that there's been a push to make sure that at least one grade level, preferably the highest, take their tests online now. What about those schools that can't get up to standards, don't have the technological ability to do that? How do they fund that?
Well, we are working with them right now. We are having discussions with those districts. There are rural districts right now that don't even have the ability to get the type of internet access besides dial-up. So we are working very hard with those districts to see how we help them solve those problems. The fact is, and we need to acknowledge this, as we move into the Common Core state standards and assessing the Common Core state standards, we hear repeatedly that those assessments will be technology based. So we have to help prepare Indiana schools for that new era of assessment.
Right. But now that those requirements are in place now and we need to do it right now and people are going through testing, what about you may say you're working with those schools, but what if right now they just don't have it?
We have some schools that are doing some pretty unique things. We have some schools that are taking students to buildings in their corporations where they do have that technology. We're looking at some alternative solutions to that. And the fact is, we want to make sure we get it right. So the discussions we have, the work we do with those school corporations will be paramount in us moving forward. But we acknowledge the fact that some schools face special challenges geographically.
And you talked about how important technology is going forward. So is this something that you would eventually like to see all grade levels, all testing do?
Well, that's what we believe will happen with the Common Core state assessments down the road. It will be, we believe they will be technology based, and they will be through year tests so that students just won't be tested one week or one day during once a year. They will be through the year based on a scope and sequenced curriculum. So yes, there's no question, technology is the great equalizer, and in my opinion, the next great disruption in education, disruption being a positive term.
Great. One of the last couple things I'll ask you here then is, what are some of the issues that you're going to be focusing on most here today and in general?
Well, what we're here to do tonight is talk about three big issues and then have dialogue and take questions. The first issue is presenting the growth model to educators. Again, the growth model is a game changer for us, and we need to make sure all of our educators understand how powerful this tool is in their hands and how it will help us change the way we assess schools, we assess professionals, and we take a look at student performance. Two, we're going to be talking about school accountability. Been a great amount of discussion about the A through F grading of schools. We're taking a look at the potential metrics that the state board will look at when we move to that grading system. And three, we're going to talk about the evaluation process and how we can work together to build an evaluation process that, once again, sets Indiana at the front of the national discussion about how we evaluate our professionals.
We talked about how important it is for educators to realize the importance of this growth model, but how important is it for everyone in the community? And I guess explain to people what this is and how it's going to directly impact them.
Well, let me do it by contrast. Okay, we currently have a system that focuses on achievement. So in other words, does a sixth grader pass the sixth grade test? Our current system doesn't take into account that not all sixth graders are prepared and ready to work at sixth grade level. Indiana's growth model allows us to take a look at each and every child where they start and how they grow in a year, with the belief that every child is entitled to a year's growth and a year of instruction. So now we just don't focus on those children who are close to the bar. We focus on each and every child and how we move them at least 1 year of academic growth in 1 year of instruction.
Wonderful. Bob, was there anything that I didn't ask? Is there anything that you wanted to add about what's going on here today?
We're excited to be here, and this is a great opportunity for us to exchange ideas with Indiana's great educators.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, sir.